All right. Think I'm on. What's up, guys? I'm trying to figure out this live thing. I just figured out how to do this on Hangouts. I'm trying to get Ryan in here. So give me a minute. What's up, one viewer? What's up, two viewers? I don't know who my viewers are right now, and I'm just figuring out how to do this stuff. Let me invite. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Hold up. But yeah, we're going to be talking about a few heat topics. Let me get him in right quick. What's up, guys? All right. I'm joining right now. In work, lady. Two six. So guys, can you like leave comments and stuff? Okay, I got you. No, if Wade comes back, I think he's gonna be a he's gonna come off the bench because I think Dion Waiters is gonna start anyway. Miami Heat homers. That was your question. Derrick Rose is done. Oh, Ryan, it set it up a new. Oh, copy. Okay, I got you. All right, hold up, Ryan. Oh, my bad, man. My bad. I'm drunk. Hold up. My bad. I copied the whole freaking video. All right, I got you.
Hello?
You in there?
Okay, so I'm here. Basically, what happened was it was what I was afraid would happen, which is that when you started to stream, it kicked you out of mine and set up your own, basically. Because like that's like when we were in the Hangout call, and then I went live. It then opened up a new Hangout for me to do my stream on. So I think that's what happened with YouTube. We have to figure out how to be able to stream from the same Hangout. Otherwise, it would have to be separate streams.
Is it possible to stream from the same?
I have no idea. I would have to like look this. This is kind of stuff. I usually just watch YouTube tutorials on it. This is how like I figured out how to do this in the first place. Was watching somebody do this on YouTube.
I mean,
as for Derrick Rose, the only team he should go to at this point is the Spurs, because at least they sort of know how to keep players healthy. I mean, if anything, I'm just worried about him like crippling himself long term.
Derrick Rose, I honestly, I think it's more about. It's not about his ability. It's more about his personality. I don't think he. I think he's. He. You know why he didn't get signed this year, because he couldn't agree to anyone because he wanted so much money, and he got injured again last year. So.
I just remember when he was when Cowherd was talking, about his press conference where he was like, I just want to take care of my family. And instead of being like, I just want to stay on the court and actually play and try and not get injured, which is what he should have said. Instead, he's talking about finances and stuff like that. And he hadn't played. He played like 20 games in like 3 years or something. I mean, he's kind of tone deaf at this point.
Yeah, I think he's not humble enough to me.
I mean, you hear about Bosch and his injuries and stuff, and Bosch is like, get me back on the court, like please let me play. Bosch was talking about taking legal action against the Heat so that they let him play.
Yeah.
Bosch isn't in it for the money. Bosch wanted to play. Bosch wanted to get out there. He was like, if you're not at one point, I think he still thought he could play, and he was like, just release me so I can go play somewhere, because all he wanted to do was play basketball. And at the end of the day, he finally was able to accept that it's just too dangerous for him to go out there, and the Heat retired his number. But like he was the kind of guy that all he wanted to do was go out there and actually earn his money.
I really we can give Bosch a front office job like we gave Shane Battier.
I mean, I want to see him on actual broadcasting because he's a pretty funny guy. You ever see some of his like interview bomb things with LeBron and Wade, where he would go and like mess with them while they were getting interviewed?
Yeah.
Like when he did the breaking the boards, the karate chop thing, that was hilarious. That's probably the most famous one, where he put down a towel as they were getting interviewed in between them and just did like a karate thing and then just like bowed like with his hand. It was just funny.
Oh yeah, I talked about Miami Heat homer said Reed, Willie Reed, our backup center, he basically screwed himself out of like $1 million signing with the Clippers instead of staying with the Heat. I talked about that in my last video about how he's just you basically his agent kind of screwed him over because for one you were getting paid 1.6 million in Miami with no taxes, Now you go to the Clippers, to a lesser organization, and you get paid 1.5 million.
I don't know if the Clippers are a less organization. They did have quite a few offseason pickups. I mean, like, this is probably a very highly unpopular opinion. I don't know if people actually agree with me on this or not. I think Willie Reed actually has more offensive potential than DeAndre Jordan. I mean, I think Willie Reed is a better scorer than Jordan.
Yeah.
Like, people don't seem to realize this. Reed actually has some really nice footwork in the post. I mean, he does spin moves in a way that, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Jordan has basically no offensive game. He's an unskilled guy. He was just spiking the ball. So I think Reed could actually put up some points there.
But that's why I think he opt out. We're going to get, especially when Bam Adebayo. I was like, we're not going to get him back, because he was a big part of our.
I like Adebayo though. I like what Adebayo brings.
Adebayo.
I mean, honestly, like, people keep throwing around trading Whiteside. I mean, I don't think that's a good idea. But if they feel confident in Adebayo, and, you know, at least they have something there if they want to trade Whiteside, which I don't think they should.
Hey, remember, they were going to trade. Remember when the Big Three first came together the first year, and we were losing all those games in the beginning of the year because, you know, chemistry issues, and they wanted to trade Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade for Dwight Howard. Those are the
I heard about that. There's a store that I go to right next to my house all the time. And the guy there was like, they're going to break them up if they don't win a championship. They're going to break them up. It's like, why would they do that, though? I mean, first of all, Wade and James are the ones that would not get broken up because they're best friends. And then, I mean, Bosh, people very much underrated him during that time. I mean, in Toronto, he was what everyone, you know, thought a power forward should be. He comes to Miami, and that's not his game anymore. He's not supposed to get those kinds of rebounds. And what he was supposed to space the floor a little bit, provide a little bit of an inside presence, you know, be a good, you know, defender at the stretch floor, you know, put him at center, stuff like that. They asked him to do something different than what he was doing in Toronto. I mean, he was able to be the best player on a playoff team when there was nobody around him. I mean, he basically did a similar thing to what Kevin Garnett did with the Wolves, except that Bosh had even less pieces around him. I mean, Bosh was the best player when on a team that had like 49 wins, and his second best player was Bargnani. I mean, that's awful. So Bosh gets way more crap than what he should. People don't realize, but that was kind of what his role became, was to be a little soft. And I mean, it's hard to call him soft because he's one of the toughest guys out there, but his role was no longer to bang around in the post. They didn't need him to do that anymore.
I wouldn't call him soft because in Toronto he was a beast. Now I would
never call him soft, but people do. That's the one thing he gets called all the time. I wouldn't ever do that.
I mean, I understand how's a 6'11" man that probably been around 200 pounds at max is soft. I don't think that's soft at all.
There's no way he benches that much. He's skinny as a rail, and he's really tall.
It doesn't matter.
But he's one of the toughest guys out there. The guy literally has a heart condition that could kill him, and all he wants to do is get back out on the court. If that's not tough, I don't know what is.
I mean,
it's stupid. It's stupid, but it's tough.
It's all about mentality. I think Udonis Haslem is obviously more tough than Bosh, but it's just he was the only one that was going to work away to Bosh because he the floor. Dwight was not going to work. It'll be all good.
Well, Dwight Howard, the moment he was no longer the guy, he basically fell apart. You know, Bosh didn't fall apart in that same sort of way. Bosh was able to embrace the number 3. I guess he was most of the time he's probably the number 3 there. So he was actually able to embrace that, unlike Howard, who was unwilling to give in to Kobe and then basically just fell apart after that.
Well, the later years in the Big Three era, Bosh became ultimately number 2 because Dwayne Wade started getting those knee injuries, and you know, it just went all downhill from there.
Yeah, and then we get the max to become the number 1 again. So they want us to talk about like current Miami Heat stuff. What do you think about Wade coming back? Do you think? I mean, I think he'll come off the bench if anything. The thing I like about Wade coming back is that he was close with Winslow, and Winslow's confidence. We already talked about this. We didn't like publish it or anything, but Winslow's biggest problem at this point is his confidence or his lack thereof. So I think Wade can come back and help his confidence tremendously.
Yeah, I got some topics Hold up. Let me get my phone charged. It's on 2%. But yeah, continue talking about that, Ryan. Hold up.
So in Winslow's rookie year, he became really close with Wade. I remember Winslow on Twitter when Wade left was really upset. Winslow's biggest issue is it's not his talent, it's not his skill. He's very skilled, he's very smart, he's very talented. He just gets in his own head too quick. Because of that, he misses a lot more jump shots than what he should. His form's not very bad. I mean, I just think that a lot of it is just, a lot of it is confidence type stuff. I think he's a little bit lower confidence right now. I think bringing Wade back, if nothing else, could help a lot of the young guys, get that sort of desire to win in the same way that Wade's always had. And I think that also it could really help Winslow specifically because of how close they were. I think Waiters at this point has much more value as a starter because, Waiters can play more minutes and Waiters can also shoot the three at this point, and shooting the three is much more important right now in the league, and Wade has just never shown the ability to. But I think Wade coming off the bench could put up a few points. And hold on, I'm getting a call. 1 second. I'm getting a phone call.
Hello? These are the top three things that I want to talk about. Predictions of the Heat's 2017-2018 record. Our record will be we'll probably have around, I'm thinking 49 to like 52 games, somewhere around there, and probably be a third or second seed, something like that, in the East next year.
I'm thinking, I don't know if we're going to be able, there's a couple teams that are still really good or have gotten better. I think the Wizards still look about the same. I don't see why they would do any worse. In fact, they might even be better because they got another year of chemistry. I think down the road, the Porter contract screwed them, but for right now, they look okay. The Bucks will get better, even though they don't have Parker until the All-Star break. The Bucks look pretty good right now, and especially if Thon Maker continues to develop. He looked like he had a little bit of Joel Embiid in him. He's like that same really tall guy who can shoot from outside, just really raw and very underweight. I think Embiid was able to fill out and do a little bit better. I don't know about the Celtics. If anything, they didn't get much worse. I don't know if they got better. They didn't get much worse.
I think Thon Maker is more like a KG type, prototype, if you want to say that. I think he's more like a KG style.
Yeah, KG was really, really skinny, if that's like what the angle you're going there. KG was way underweight when he first started. KG was always sort of skinny, but early on it was a problem.
I'm not talking about physically. I'm talking about, game style. I think he has that little fadeaway that KG had. He could play very good defense around the rim. I think KG's a way better perimeter defense than Thon Maker, but he can develop into that.
From what I've heard about Thon Maker's work ethic, too, he's very similar to KG. Nobody ever worked harder than KG, but I've hearing about the workouts and commitment Maker has, I think I could see a similarity there, too. And the guys who are like that are the ones you want on your team because those are the ones that want it the most, and so they'll work the hardest and they'll get better. Karl Anthony Towns had that in him too, which is why he was able to work with KG for so long. And look at what happened to Towns. He's an absolute beast in just his second season.
Okay.
I don't think the Cavs got – I don't know. The Cavs just got a year older, in my opinion. I don't even know if they did get any better.
No, they didn't get it. But this is our second Miami's breakout player next year. What do you think?
Waiters, probably. I think either Waiters or Winslow. I definitely think you get a full season of Waiters. If he's playing the way he did during the winning streak, I think Waiters is definitely the breakout player. This is also probably a slightly unpopular of an opinion as well. I think we're starting to see Whiteside's ceiling. We're getting closer to it. I don't think he's going to be much more than what he is right now. If he does get better, that's great. But right now where he is still pretty good. So
think about it. Think about it, Ryan. He's 27. He just turned 28 like last month. I think he's at his best right now. I think we've seen his best.
I don't think he's going to get much better. I think he's still a pretty good player. People think he's going to still continue to improve. He might get a little bit more efficient, if anything. Well, he'll get better on defense. Hopefully, he's continuing to get better as a help defender. But I don't think he's going to develop much more.
Well, people that say bad don't realize how old Whiteside is now. Whiteside's not young. He's pretty old. But the only thing I think he's getting better in, I saw some clips this summer. He was shooting some threes. Maybe he can shoot some threes every now and then, like DeMarcus Cousins. But other than that, pretty much maxed out.
The thing I worry about with Whiteside, and this is the same thing with Giannis, people don't realize this, having really long arms does not help you as a shooter. I mean, having like ridiculously long wingspan, especially for your height, is not a good thing. There's a reason that Giannis has not been able to develop a jump shot. And I think a lot of it has to do with his really long arms. I think it's just harder to, same reason guys like DeAndre Jordan are not great free throw shooters. I mean, obviously he looks very rigid and stuff, but if you have long arms, you have to do more to shoot the ball. You have to have a longer shooting motion, and that just makes it more inaccurate.
Well, that's the thing about when he shoots that mid range, he doesn't jump really. He just shoots. He doesn't really. He jumped it.
Yeah, he's also learned how the ability to repeat it in a way that works. But so, for example, I'm a Baltimore Orioles fan because I'm from Baltimore, and we watch Ubaldo Jimenez pitch here. And the problem with Ubaldo, it's not that he doesn't have arm talent, it's that his windup takes so long and is so weird that it's impossible to repeat regularly. And so you see him walk a lot of guys and you see him have control issues. It's sort of the same thing when you have long arms playing basketball. It's harder to repeat your motion because you just have to do more for it. So like it's the same thing with like a guy like in the NFL, like for example, what's his name, Byron Leftwich or Mike Glennon, where they're these like really tall guys that have really long windups and really long arms, and it's just hard for them to have the sort of touch or accuracy on their passes. So having long arms, a lot of times it does usually mean that you can play really well, play really good defense or dominate inside, but it's just harder to repeat your shooting motion or get rhythm because you just have to, do more in order to shoot each one because you have, longer motions, stuff like that. So I don't know if Whiteside will ever be a great outside shooter, but if he can get better at that mid-range shot and continue to be a, above average free throw shooter for a guy like him, he's better than Drummond and DeAndre Jordan. If he can continue to do that kind of stuff, I think his numbers will go up.
Yeah. Okay, guys. I just posted Ryan's Winners channel, so I just posted probably up. But I think Whiteside's hit his next potential. I mean, that's not a bad. He still can play good, but you're not going to see any more from him. Which that's all we need. All we need is rebounds, blocks, put back points, a few offensive moves every now and then, and that's good. We don't need anything else from him.
I mean, he's a net positive on the team, I think, by a lot.
Yeah. He's a very good teammate too, by the way. He's matured because remember.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I'm really proud. I don't remember him getting any texts this past year. And the biggest criticism was always, is he like an adult? Can he act mature on the court? Can he not do stupid stuff? He did a really good job last season. I don't remember him getting any.
And that's the thing. Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh wasn't there. UD was still there, but he didn't have any other mentor that was there, and he played well. He didn't get angry. He didn't have any texts really. He didn't have any, pushing and shoving. Remember when Flagrant foul by I forgot who it was last year, and James Johnson came to his aid or something. Whiteside didn't jump back up and try to fight him or nothing.
Yeah, he didn't do the Alex Len WWE tackle move.
Yeah,
where he had Alex Len basically had like a wrestling match.
Yeah,
that was bad. I mean,
yeah, 2 times.
Yeah, and then he and Olynyk went at it, but apparently they're cool now, and they have to be because they're teammates. So
he says Whiteside is improving every year. He can get that sky to be a beast.
Because if he can just make that constantly and he can improve the range of it. Because like Kareem at his best could shoot that thing from like 10 feet. I mean, even Yao back in the day had a hook shot that he could shoot from really deep. So if Whiteside can make it more consistent, I mean, his long arms, nobody's gonna be able to block that thing. So if you can just get that to go in, I mean, Al Jefferson has made a career scoring off of moves like that. So if you can get that to go in, nobody's gonna block it, and so it's just gonna be impossible to defend, especially with his long arms and his ability to get his own rebound if he misses a lot of the time. So yeah, definitely, I think if he can just master a hook shot, I mean, Shaq got a lot of his points off that hook shot too. So it's going to be impossible to defend, especially with his long arms and his ability. Do you have like your own stream load? Because I can hear like when I repeat. If he can just master, I mean, Shaq got a lot of his points off that hook shot too. Impossible to defend, especially with his long arms. Oh my god.
Hold up.
Yeah, do you have like your own stream going on in the background?
No, hold up. There it goes.
Okay.
Good now. We're good. Oh yeah. That's weird. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
There's nothing really. Hold up. Is there anything backing up or repeating itself?
No, there's no more like shrieking either. It sounds pretty good right now.
Okay. Okay. What you were saying now?
I was saying is like the hook shot is actually has been a go-to move for guys in the paint more often than people even realize. I mean, Kareem obviously made a career off of it, but Shaq used to, I bet Shaq's the majority of his post scores didn't even come off of dunks. They probably came off of stuff like hook shots because Shaq had a hook shot that it was like a knockdown shot. So a lot, if Whiteside can just master a hook shot, even from like 5 to 8 feet, if he can make it somewhere in there every time. Whiteside has long arms. Nobody's gonna be able to block that, and that'll definitely raise his offensive game. So if he can master that, I definitely think he'll put up more points.
What do you think about? Okay, this is our third topic. Let me see what our third topic is about.
I mean, back to Waiters being the breakout player, which we were talking about. I mean,
yeah,
if he can stay healthy, I don't see why not.
I didn't know what I was going to say. I didn't. Okay, I think our breakout player obviously is going to be Dion Waiters, but I want you to watch out for Josh Richardson because he's going to be playing for his league this year.
You and I were going to debate Tyler Johnson versus Josh Richardson, weren't we?
I think Josh is a better two-way player. Honestly, I really do.
You think Josh Richardson would be?
Yeah, he's a better two-way player. He's not.
I don't know about that.
I mean, you think Tyler Johnson is better defensively than Josh Richardson? I don't think so.
I think the problem right now with Richardson is that where do you put him? I mean, he's not quick enough to be like a guy that drives to the basket at shooting guard. He doesn't have good enough handles to be a point guard. His handles, I mean, he gets the ball taken from him more often than I'd like. Well, he's a terrific defender. He can defend anywhere from 1s to 3s probably. But the problem is just I think he's not quite nifty enough or quick enough to drive by people, good enough to play point guard. I think he's going to be a really good defender. He's a knockdown shooter. But I think Tyler Johnson has much better handles than Josh Richardson. He's a little bit quicker and can get past people a little bit better. And I mean, they're both pretty good defenders, but I think Tyler offers more in terms of the combination of handles and athleticism at his size to where he'll be a more productive player. I think Richardson is, he needs to get quicker. And he just doesn't. Have you ever seen him try to drive to the basket? He just doesn't have the quickness to get by people. And I mean, he has good athleticism. He's a great shooter. But I think in his ideal role would be the way he played in his rookie year, where he would come in and play really good defense, and then try and get open and knock down threes. I don't think he's the kind of guy that can handle the ball or run an offense or anything like that. And I think you've seen Tyler Johnson. I mean, he's obviously not the greatest at that either, but I think Tyler Johnson's better at creating for himself. And I think that Tyler Johnson's also better at, once he does get a little bit of space or gets a pick. I would trust him more to go to the basket with the ball than Josh Richardson. But I don't think Richardson's any more at this point than a 3-and-D type of player.
I mean, I think he's a better. See, this is why you're right. Tyler Johnson's he has better offense than Josh Richardson. But Josh Richardson is a player, and I think into the 3-and-D player a guy. See, Josh Richardson is a bit like if we had to choose who would start, I would start Josh Richardson because he can shoot the three, and he can play defense.
But it depends on what position you need to start in. Like, if it were point guard or shooting guard, I'd start Tyler Johnson. If it were small forward, I mean, Josh Richardson's a better fit for that. But I just think, I don't know if Richardson will ever be able to be quick enough to, be the guy that drives to the basket.
No. He doesn't have to be that. That's what I'm saying.
No, I mean, yeah.
He doesn't have to be we already have enough of that. We have Dion Waiters for that. All we need him to do is spot up, shoot threes, get a few putbacks because he's good at getting some few putbacks. Use his athleticism, play some defense, and that's all we need him to do. A good role player. We don't need him to,
Yeah, the thing is, I like him on the court with Tyler Johnson, not necessarily one or the other. I like the idea of having, there's like, okay, so that he, in my opinion, have 3 specific guys, actually 4, that are really good at doing that driving to the basket. I think Dragic, Waiters, Tyler Johnson, and James Johnson are really good at that. But then you need guys like Josh Richardson in there who can, spot up for 3 So when they drive. So I like them on the court together more than like one or the other because they definitely have different strengths. Richardson, in his rookie year, was a guy that could catch and shoot. It was pretty much, you knew it was going in. Tyler Johnson has a decent jump shot, but he doesn't have that kind of knockdown shot that Richardson had in his rookie year. So I like the idea of all these guys playing together. I don't know if you pick one or the other, and I think then Richardson could go and basically defend the other team's best or second best option. I mean, I think that if you put them together, that's probably a better idea. I don't necessarily think one is bad. I think they both have different types of games. I think Tyler Johnson is more dynamic on offense. I think Richardson is a better knockdown shooter and defender, most likely. So I think they work better together than one or the other.
Okay. Think about the third time. Well, who will be from the Miami Heat in the All-Star game next year?
I mean, I think Waiters could make it. We were talking about like who on the East really could make the All-Star game. I mean, there's 5 point guards that are probably going to make it. The East has like a ton of point guards on that roster. I mean, Isaiah Thomas will probably make it. Lowry could make it. John Wall could make it. Kyrie Irving could make it. But it's just like there's point guards on like a lot of teams that could easily make it. So, I mean, even the Heat have a guy that was a 20-point per game scorer, and he might not even be in the top 5 in the East in terms of point guards. It seems like every team, Kemba Walker could make it. There's every team in the East, it seems like, has a pretty good point guard outside of like the Knicks. So every other position is then becoming the question mark. So we talked about how the East all of a sudden lost 3 separate guys who have been all-stars for multiple years now.
Yeah.
I mean, they obviously lost so they lost Millsap, they lost, obviously, Paul George, and they lost Jimmy Butler. So these 3 guys have all been all-stars for years. So I think the East, now the all-star landscape is going to look a little bit different. Now, outside of LeBron and Giannis, who I think will make it, and I mean, I'm probably missing a few people here and there, I don't think Waiters and Whiteside will have all that much competition for the All-Star game. I mean, what centers really in the East are you going to put ahead of Whiteside at this point?
I don't like his personality. Joel Embiid can be aggravating sometimes, but if he stays healthy, he's a better player than Whiteside. I'll give him that.
Who was that? I didn't. It cut out a little bit.
Joel Embiid.
Yeah, I mean, but can he stay healthy? I have to see it first.
That's my problem. Can he stay healthy? I think he may become another Greg Oden.
I see everyone's jumping on the hype with him. I can't do it because, I mean, he's played 31 games in 3 seasons.
I don't get the hype about Alonzo, but we'll talk about that a little later. We got to finish these Heat topics first.
I'm looking at other centers. I mean, outside of maybe Horford. Probably not. I don't like Horford all that much. Miles Turner is a possibility. Drummond, but Drummond's already hit his ceiling and is now declining already. Drummond just doesn't have an offensive game. I don't know if he ever will.
Yeah.
Vucevic puts up points, but I mean, is he an all-star? Are the Magic even going to be winning enough for him to be considered? There's not a lot of guys on here that I like as all-stars. I mean, Valanciunas is a pretty good player, but they don't give him a lot of minutes, and he's kind of clunky.
These are my guys that got, and we got to go back to the Heat because it was really a Heat question, but these are my guys. I got either I got Hassan Whiteside, definitely, probably Joel Embiid. That's all I got. And Miles Turner. Those are the top 3 centers in the East. All right, now from the Miami Heat, personally, I got 3 guys making it to the All-Star game. If we can get a second seed, I have 3 guys making it. I got Gordon Dragic, Dion Waiters, and Hassan Whiteside. But if we just get the 3rd seed, I got Hassan Whiteside and Dion Waiters.
I think Dragic is just going to be screwed over by the strong point guard Eastern Conference.
Like every year. I think he's better than Kyle Lowry. I don't understand. I think he's better than Kyle Lowry.
Kyle Lowry's a really nice defender. I don't know if I'd put him ahead of Lowry.
Oh. Kyle Lowry's a good defender? I don't know about that.
Yeah, he's the best defender on the Raptors. He's a really good defender. That's probably his biggest strength, his defense. Yeah, it's just kind of a bonus that he developed an offensive game.
He's a better defender than Serge Ibaka.
They're different types of defenders. Ibaka's a nice rim protector, but Lowry's one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. Lowry's way better than DeMar DeRozan at defense. DeMar DeRozan is a liability to that team. They're going to try and probably get rid of him.
No,
Just
no,
because
no.
DeRozan can't shoot and he can't defend at all.
DeMar DeRozan is not good on defense either, but I don't think Kyle Lowry's that great on defense either.
He's pretty good. I mean, he's let me see if he's made any first team defenses. He's definitely known as one of let's see.
I know who is as a point guard in Eastern Conference. That's Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, his defensive win shares aren't as good as I thought. I mean,
I can
wanted him to be like a really good defender.
He's two. I probably could literally post on Isaiah Thomas.
You could posterize Kyle Lowry. I don't know.
No,
let's see. Yeah, but I mean, their defense looks better now with Serge Ibaka, but Lowry's always been known as a pretty good defender. I mean, it's hard to put Dragic ahead of the majority of these guys. I'm trying to find one that maybe I could. John Wall took his game to the next level this past year. I don't think I'd put him ahead of Wall.
Well, no, he's not better
with Kemba Walker.
He's not better than John Wall.
No, I don't think he's better than Kemba either. Is he better than Kyrie? Probably not.
He's not better than Kyrie. He's not better than John Wall. Kemba,
So I think it looks like if Isaiah Thomas takes a step back, or if Lowry takes a step back, which both are more possible than the other three guys, maybe Dragic slips in ahead of Isaiah or Lowry.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two guys that I think their grip on that spot is the weakest, just because Lowry's not the greatest offensive player, and he's also getting older. And then Isaiah now has more competition with Gordon Hayward there. Will he take as many shots? And if he's not scoring 29 points per game, will his weaknesses start to become more obvious, which is, his ball dominance and lack of defense? So I think Dragic, if anything, could slip ahead of one of those two guys. I think the other three guys pretty much have their spots on lock.
Okay.
You also have to think about Schroeder. I mean, Schroeder's on the Hawks. Is he going to get any better? I don't know. He's becoming a better scorer.
Not better than Gordon Dragic right now.
Probably not, but I mean, he's another guy that you have to consider too.
Okay, blog jams. I don't know what.
Okay, well now, especially if the Heat sign Wade. I mean, if you look at anywhere between the 2 to 3, you've got Waiters and Winslow are probably the starters. You got Magruder, Wayne Ellington, Josh Richardson, James Johnson, depending on where you put him. It's just like a ton of guys at these positions. Dwayne Wade now too. There's a lot of guys that play at these wing positions. And do they have enough room for all these guys? Like, are they going to be able to give all these guys playing time? Especially because I don't think Wayne Ellington has been re-signed, but everyone wants him back.
He's been re-signed. I think they picked up his team option.
Did they? Yeah, he's still on the team, so they definitely got him. But no, he signed a multi-year. Oh, it's just 1 year.
It's a team option. $6 million.
But there's a lot of wings on this team. I don't know. I'm gonna take a look at the roster, but there's
it's too many wings on this team.
Yeah, and Okaro White, he's looking pretty good at power forward too, at least in summer league.
Honestly, I want Okaro. I really do. He's a very good player also, and he's a bigger three than Josh.
So James Johnson used to play the 3. If you give Okaro White or Kelly Olynyk more playing time, you have to move James Johnson to the 3, and that becomes even more of a log jam. Although I do think that James Johnson's best role is as a stretch 4.
East Coast James Johnson is going to start at the power forward this year, so he's going to be a power forward no matter what this year.
I think so. Yeah, Miami Heat homers. Dragic is so underrated in terms of how tough he is. I don't know if you've seen the kind of hits he takes when he goes inside, because he's not the most athletic guy. I mean, he takes some serious hits. It seems like he's always getting hit in the face by someone. Well, that's more Tyler Johnson too, but he's really tough. I mean, I'm surprised with the way Dragic plays, especially going inside against guys that are bigger, stronger, and more athletic than him, how he doesn't just take more hits.
Yeah.
But the problem is just the problem is not that Dragic is. It's not even that Dragic is underrated. It's just that there's so many good point guards in the East. Who do you put him ahead of? We can all say, Dragic was a snub, but then who loses their spot? That's the problem.
The only people I put ahead of Dragic as of now is John Wall, Isaiah Thomas, and that's all I really can think. And Kyrie.
I think that there's 3 guys I would put right now ahead of Dragic. I'd put Wall, I'd put Kemba Walker, and Kyrie ahead of Dragic. Isaiah, Isaiah last year definitely ahead of Dragic. This year with Hayward there and, with the team looking a little bit different, we'll see. And then Lowry, I guess we'll see too. But last year I also would have had him ahead of Dragic.
I mean, I like him, but is he really better than? I think they're the same. I don't think he's worse. I think it's the same. They're at the same level right now. They both drive to the ring. Kemba probably does it a little better because he's a little more athletic. They're both good at shooting 3-pointers. I think Dragic is a better passer than Kemba Walker. I mean, I don't know. They're both matched on defense. I think Dragic's a little better defender also.
I mean, I definitely like Dragic more. I don't know about defense. I think they're both pretty average. I like Kemba more as
the reason why I say
more, especially since he's a better free throw shooter. But yeah, I mean, they're pretty even.
That's why they're pretty even. I wouldn't say one's better than the other.
The problem is just that, I mean, Dragic's role is as the main ball handler. I mean, Walker's role isn't always as a distributor because Batum is like the guy who brings the ball down the court sometimes and runs the offense. And Walker has been playing more off ball or, not being the ball dominant guy anymore.
Same thing for Gordon Dragic. Waiters having the ball down, bringing the ball down sometimes too. So but
Dragic thrives when the ball is in his hands and he's able to create.
Yeah,
Dragic was not able to do the catch and shoot when Wade was there.
That's the thing about it. Dragic, he's been with Miami Heat. He's gotten better at shooting also.
I mean, he's definitely. I think. I don't know. I don't know if you put him ahead of Kemba. I think it's also possible that. I mean, Kemba's really. There's not as many good players around Kemba as there are around Dragic on the Heat. I mean, Kemba's kind of had to carry that team on his own. So that might be why he gets more recognition as well.
Well, what's a better? I mean, who do they? I can't even think of their like a good 20-point score on the Hornets.
Well, besides Kemba, there's nobody that I would be like, oh, why isn't he averaging more points? Yeah. I mean, Batum's okay, but Batum's not really a scorer.
Yeah, Batum's
an all-around decent player, but he's not the kind of guy that you expect to drop 20. I mean, I guess maybe Frank Kaminsky, obviously, I don't think he's a 20-point-per-game guy, but they drafted him to put the ball in the basket because they certainly didn't draft him for rebounding or defense.
Yeah.
And looking at the roster is full of role players. It's Kemba Walker, Batum, who could even be considered a role player, and then just everyone else is just like a role player. There's nobody else there that's like a second start.
All right, this is. All right, the fourth thing is the logjam. This kind of ties into the fifth question. Someone's going to get traded this season, and who do you think is going to be? Someone's going to get traded out of these wings.
I think the most likely one, I think there's two guys that are the most likely. I think Tyler Johnson and Josh Richardson. Tyler Johnson's contract isn't the worst thing ever, but I don't see a lot of teams wanting to take him on, especially since he's I don't know if people will be worried if he's a system player because, he's really good within the Heat system, but he's never really shown anything outside of that system. He's obviously, a pretty good scorer, pretty good shooter. He's a well above average defender. But for that contract, will people just be nervous that he's a system player? And then obviously Josh Richardson, who's still on his rookie deal. I think maybe he might have, at least shown not as much as Tyler yet. But I mean, Josh Richardson's skills he's a pretty good, he could be a guy that could be traded to a team that's looking for just somebody to do the 3-and-D role. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's possible that, somebody will scoop him up as well. I think Waiters, I don't think they'll trade. Winslow, I think they're still really hoping will develop into, a centerpiece. Although at this point, I don't know anymore. Depends on if he can develop an offensive game. But they definitely won't trade Waiters.
They're not going to trade Magruder, so they're probably not going to trade him. He's very.
Magruder, I don't know who would. Magruder doesn't have any trade value. I mean, Magruder's a solid player, but as of right now, I wouldn't give you anything from Magruder.
Yeah, I think he's our best defender besides Justice Winslow.
Yeah, but I mean, he's definitely a good defender, but I don't know if he's been a 1-year undrafted rookie, who he was okay on offense, but he was really just an energy guy. I mean, I'd if I were to want to offer the Heat something for someone there, I'd at least want to see a little bit more from Magruder at this point.
I could see Magruder being an add-in in a trade for Richardson or Johnson or something, but I don't think Magruder on his own has any trade value.
It would destroy us because we need at least one 3D player. But
yeah,
Josh Richardson, this is my theory. This is what I think is going to happen. I think Josh Richardson has the advantage because of his contract situation. I think whoever plays better or whoever looks like they're playing better on both sides of the floor will not get traded. It will be between those two only who will get traded. The odd man out will probably be Tyler Johnson, though, because of that contract. I think if Josh Richardson continues what he did his last few games last year at the end of the season, if he continues on that role, I think they will keep him instead and trade Tyler Johnson to Brooklyn.
Yeah, it looked like he was starting to gain his confidence back at the end of last season, Josh Richardson.
Yeah.
He was injured for like quite a bit of the year.
He
didn't look like his shot. He didn't look like he was confident in his shot anymore. And so once he started getting more minutes and started playing regularly at the end of the season, it looked like he started to get his confidence back.
Yeah, he had those ankle injuries, but I think whoever plays better, they're probably gonna stop. But if they both play, I think if they both play very good, then not even Magruder may get traded because someone's gonna have to get traded.
I think it depends on who they can get more value out of. To be honest, I don't necessarily know if it's they trade based on which one of the two they like more. I mean, if Tyler Johnson doesn't take a huge step forward, and he still plays well, but in that system, I think the system player after seeing failure after failure of guys like Lance Stevenson, just fail on other teams because they put up good numbers and they came out of nowhere, but it was because of that system. I'm wondering, will teams be kind of nervous about that for Tyler Johnson? Because Tyler Johnson obviously excels in the system that the Heat have, and he's a good chemistry guy with the rest of the guys. The entire team really likes him.
Oh yeah, Josh Richardson, the main three guys is Whiteside, Richardson, and Winslow. Those four, they've been there from
but I mean Tyler Johnson and James Johnson are like best friends at this point. All they do on Instagram nowadays is defend each other. It's kind of funny. Yeah, all they do is just they're like really close.
They call him at this point. They call him the Johnson.
Yeah, I mean they're pretty close. I mean they always come onto the court at the same time. It looks like they become really good friends, and but the thing is, the Heat have now shown that they can take their system and basically revive careers with it or start careers with it. But if Tyler Johnson goes to another team, let's say the Nets, who are the ones who offered him the contract that we had to match, does he do the same thing on the Nets, or does he crumble because he doesn't have a good team around him or a good team chemistry or a coach that can bring out the best in him? So I think teams after seeing guys come in and just not be the same sort of player, then you have to wonder if that's going to be a concern when teams are looking to trade for one of the Heat players. Whereas Josh Richardson's game at this point looks like it's really good defense and spot up shooting, which can translate to any offense really. So that's why I think Josh Richardson might be more likely to be traded.
Miami Heat homer says Richardson and Winslow doesn't show improvement with the Johnson needs value would be Richardson. This is what I think also. This is a shocker though. If Justice really does become a bust, which I highly doubt, he would definitely be traded because other teams would think, oh, we can make Justice Winslow work. So he would definitely be traded. I think Justice Winslow has the highest value out of all those guys.
Well, I mean, obviously Winslow has the highest trade value, but ideally we'd like Winslow to develop.
No, I want to keep him. Stanley Johnson is not like Stanley Johnson's a bust. Justice Winslow, I'm telling you.
That's what I'm saying. But Stanley Johnson doesn't play defense.
No.
Stanley Johnson. Did you see the Pistons Heat game? Everyone credits Whiteside with that game-winning tip-in. Johnson made a bunch of boneheaded plays that allowed the Heat to get back in it. I mean, Johnson was the reason the Pistons lost that game. He had like a turnover. He missed a couple shots or something. I mean, I'm gonna look up that stat line from that game because he was awful from what I remember.
But I think they sent him to the D League 2 times last year.
Yeah, he was really bad. So this is the one where the Heat won, and I'm looking up. He had 5 turnovers in that game. He came in for like 32 minutes. He had 5 turnovers. He went 2 for 5 from the field. I remember those. Like a lot of those turnovers were later in the game, from what I remember. I mean, I was driving back from my girlfriend's, and I was listening on the radio, And it seemed like every single play was just like, and Stanley Johnson has a 3 seconds. Stanley Johnson turns it over. I mean, it sounded like he was just making a ton of boneheaded plays. So I don't necessarily think it's just that he can't score the ball like they wanted to. He doesn't play defense, and he's not a smart guy. I mean, Winslow can do both. Winslow's a very smart player, and he can play defense. If he can develop an offensive game, I don't see why the Heat wouldn't want to hang on to him, because then he could be an all-around threat. But he's certainly not Stanley Johnson. Stanley Johnson is definitely a bust. Stanley Johnson hasn't shown anywhere near what Winslow has already shown.
Yeah, I think everyone said when Justice Winslow was a miracle when he dropped to us. He really was.
I don't know why the Pistons didn't take him. I don't know why the Hornets didn't take him.
Yeah.
Stanley Johnson is a bust, not just because he can't put up numbers. Stanley Johnson just can't do anything because he's just not a smart guy. He doesn't have a high basketball IQ.
First, at that, when the draft, after the draft literally happened, people were blaming the New York Knicks for not getting Justice Winslow. But now in hindsight, we see Chris Porzingis is a freaking beast.
I mean, Porzingis was. Who saw that coming? Come on, who saw that one coming?
No one saw that coming.
Even Phil Jackson probably didn't.
Phil
Jackson's probably like, this guy's 7'3" and can shoot the ball. Draft, and then he got like really lucky.
He didn't know he can score off the dribble. Very athletic, putbacks, dunk, block shots. He didn't know he can do all that now.
I mean, everyone's like, he could be Dirk Nowitzki. He's not really like Dirk because Dirk wasn't all that athletic. Porzingis isn't a ridiculous athlete. I mean,
ridiculous. He's going to be a matchup problem, I'm telling you.
I mean, but who really saw that coming? I mean, when you draft that guy, it looks like he's too skinny to play right now. He looks really young. He looks really raw. Will he be able to come over at that height but with that skinny body and stay healthy or compete with NBA-level strength players? And he did. I mean, so, but that was just luck. It's hard for me to say that they knew what they were doing. I mean, it looked like they saw a good prospect and were like, let's grab this guy. They had no idea he would be that ready that quickly.
Okay, those are all the Heat topics. We talked about a few random NBA stuff.
You wanted to talk about Lonzo Ball.
Yeah, you guys can leave comments if you want. Miami Homer, if you want to, random comments. But yeah, let's talk about Lonzo. What do you think about Lonzo?
He looks okay in Summer League. His shot looks a little bit. I'm a little bit worried about his shot. Like he had a couple shots where it was really nice, like nothing but net type stuff. And there were a couple where he just straight up airballed them. It looks like his shot will be, people are saying his shot, Sean Marion's shot or Steph Curry's shot is really low down. Sean Marion actually had a pretty quick release, same with Steph Curry. Lonzo's a little bit more deliberate, so I do worry about it being blocked. He's also a tall point guard, and some point guards have been able to make that work. But, I mean, like guys like Kyle Lowry or guys like John Wall, they'll be able to swipe the ball from you pretty easily because they're good defenders. I think his attitude is good. I think the way he plays is definitely the way that you want your point guard to play. It's not just that he's like dribbling and trying to rack up stats. I mean, he's moving the ball down the court, whenever he can. I mean, he made a couple of really nice passes all the way down the court. That's the kind of stuff that I like to see from a point guard. I like to see a point guard not, just try and control everything and just, get the ball and, immediately like, where can I get this to make this the easiest score? And I think that he'll be great if the Lakers want to play a faster pace. I think that he's that kind of point guard. And I definitely prefer that kind of guy over a guy like Rondo, who pretty good passer and good defender, but holds the ball too long and is always trying to get that assist. So I like the idea of Lonzo just getting the ball down the court. I mean, he does look like he can finish at the rim a little bit. But, I mean, I do worry about his jump shot. I worry about his defense. So I guess we'll see. I don't even care about the hype at this point. It's actually kind of entertaining, so why would I really care? I'm not going to buy his $500 shoes. So
yeah, of course not. This is my thing, though. I am concerned about the hype because, look, that's the Summer League. I mean, those are a bunch of D-League players and a bunch of rookies you're playing against. When you get to the big leagues, man, and you don't have a jump shot, and because think about it, Ryan. I don't know if you watched the Summer League. I really didn't watch it. I just kind of looked at the stats overall.
Yeah, I watched a little bit. I watched some highlights.
His shooting percentage was terrible in the Summer League. Do you think it's going to be any better in the big leagues like those?
Okay, but I have a question for you. How many people do you know that have, like your friends in real life, that have said Lonzo is the next Magic Johnson? How many people do you know that have said that? How many people? I think the hype is
Friends,
I think the hype is overhyped. I don't think there is as much hype as people say there is. I think LeVar Ball and a few analysts here and there are the only ones that are really hyping this guy up. I think everyone's pretty much realistic about this guy. I don't know a lot of people that have actually showed the viewpoint that he's the next Magic Johnson.
My coach has been very delusional about this guy, and I'm seeing people on Instagram all post. This guy's the next Michael Jordan. I'm like, stop. He's not. Stop. He's not even the best player in this draft class. I'm telling you guys. Dennis Smith is the best player in this draft class.
Dennis Smith looks like the best player easily already.
And that's the thing, though.
I'm really excited for him.
Think about it, Ryan. If Dallas would have skipped on him, he would have easily dropped to the Heat because those other two teams ahead of us they didn't need a point guard. He would easily dropped to the Miami.
Let me take a look.
No, yeah, like those teams, he could have easily dropped to us. I was so mad when Dallas drafted him because I was like, we were so close to getting Dennis Smith. I know for sure Pat Riley would have got Dennis Smith if we would have dropped to us. I know for sure. But he didn't. I mean, he didn't drop to us. Dallas got him, and I wonder
if Utah wouldn't have traded their pick and taken because they knew they were losing George Hill. I wonder if Utah would have just kept their pick if Dennis Smith had slipped and just taken him. That's the only scenario I could think of.
Okay, what was Utah though?
Utah was one pick before the Heat, but they traded their pick to Denver for. So they traded their pick. Wait, let me see. They traded for that pick, so they got Donovan Mitchell. I mean, I guess they still would have made that trade, but would they have then taken Dennis Smith instead of Donovan Mitchell?
That's a good question. I think that was probably.
I mean, Dennis Smith is a better prospect than Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, their intent was probably to take Dennis Smith when they.
Yeah, either way, I think if Dallas doesn't get him, I mean, it's highly possible Utah gets him.
I know one team that's just in trouble if this becomes I think New York Knicks are in trouble because they had Dennis Smith in their hands and they picked the Frank guy. If Frank guy is nowhere close to a starting level point guard,
I think it's possible it's just another Phil Jackson troll. I mean, that might have been his middle finger on the way out. That pick.
I think he did that to get fired.
I think it's his middle finger on the way out because I think he knew it was pretty much over. I think picking just a random European guy, I think that's it's got to be his middle finger at that point. I don't know. I mean, the guy looks okay. From what I've seen, he looks okay, but he's not Dennis Smith. Dennis Smith I don't know how he slipped that far.
The what?
I don't know how Dennis Smith slipped that far.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Weird. So I don't know why Phil Jackson didn't take him. It might have just been
I would have traded up to go get him. I would have traded up to Dennis Smith. I would have traded John Johnson and another player to go get Dennis Smith.
The thing is, it's one thing if the draft class doesn't really have any clear-cut guys to take at your pick, but when you have Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh, and you opt for the guy with the most potential in Darko Milicic from Europe, who you barely ever see play, people should learn that lesson by now, and I think Dennis Smith has shown enough to know that you don't gamble on the European guy when he's still available.
Exactly, Miami Heat.
It's one thing to gamble on a European guy if there really isn't anybody else, But if there are other guys, you don't gamble on the foreign guy, in my opinion.
Lonzo, I don't think he's all hype. He's more than what they want. They have him hyped up to be something that he will ultimately be a bust because of the expectation. That's my point about Lonzo Ball. It's not because he's not bad. He's not bad. He's a good quality point guard, but the expectations they have for him is just ridiculous. They have him being better than Stephen Curry. No.
Who really is saying that he's better than Steph Curry, though?
For one thing.
I don't know. If somebody's saying that, then they don't know basketball.
Oh, you don't understand. He's essentially
people in my circle don't think Lonzo Ball is the next Michael Jordan. I don't know.
Come to the South. These fans are just crazy.
Really. I mean, LeVar Ball, if he's one thing, he's a good marketer.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So Richardson, Tyler Johnson, and Winslow for Porzingis. The Knicks wouldn't do that.
Heck no.
That's not. If I were the Knicks GM, I wouldn't do that.
Tyler Johnson.
So Josh Richardson, Tyler Johnson, and Winslow for Porzingis. I mean, if I were the Heat and I could get that deal, yeah. If I were the Knicks, there's no way. I think the only thing you either trade Porzingis for. Why would you trade Porzingis? They're not going to trade him. They can't do that. There's nothing you could get for him that he can't give you.
If the trade actually went down, it would be good in theory, but then who's going to be a small forward? Like, I can keep it balanced. I don't like the, over start state. It's not a balance. We need a small forward lead. If we could trade Tyler Johnson, they'll be heists, but they'll never happen.
I mean, like the Knicks, if they have a couple years now while he's really young to build around him. If they still can't build around him and he's like 25 at a certain point, then maybe they trade him for some assets. But right now, there's no reason to trade somebody as young and with so much potential as him.
He's going to go the Anthony Davis route if they don't do something.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Davis is as good as gone from that team.
He's gone.
I think, like in my video that I made about 3 teams that need an identity, the solution I had for the Celtics, one of them was stop being dumb with your assets and actually like trade some of them for a guy like Anthony Davis. I mean, if you want to win and you want to compete with LeBron, you can't just keep stockpiling these prospects and not doing anything with them. You want to get something for them when they're very valuable.
I guess Boston think they're gonna find a LeBron James in the next draft for the next 5 years. Like, no, dude, these next few drafts are not gonna be stronger than the one that just passed by. So, take those assets and go get Anthony Davis. Me personally, as a Heat fan, I don't want him to go get Anthony Davis because we are screwed if they do. But if they don't, we can probably still beat them because I think Gordon Hayward's not a big game changer for Boston. I really don't, especially for all they gave up. They gave up too much for him. I really do. See, that's the thing.
They gutted a lot of their core to get him.
No, that's the thing I said about the Heat just now. We traded Josh Richardson, Tyler Johnson, and Justice Winslow for just one guy. They'll just be too much for one guy. We're not going to be that successful, honestly. I mean,
for a guy like Porzingis,
look what the Knicks did with Carmelo Anthony a few years back when they traded their whole young team for Carmelo.
They ended up making the playoffs a couple times with Carmelo. The Nuggets haven't been able to turn it into wins. So
they're actually successful. You don't remember?
For the Nuggets, they went to a playoffs like a few times, but they didn't really do much with it.
More than the Knicks.
I mean, they weren't the Knicks like the 2nd seed one year or like the 3rd.
No.
They were a high seed one year.
Yeah, when they had all these old guys in the roster, yeah, they were like the 3rd.
So yeah, and the year that Carmelo won the scoring title, I mean, they made it to the 2nd round of the playoffs. Like they took the Pacers to 6 games.
Yeah, but I don't like the whole idea of just for one superstar you just destroy your team.
But I mean they went with 2 play. I mean how many playoff runs did they go on? Yeah, they had 2 successful playoff runs. I mean,
that's bad though. What? How many there? 7 years with the Knicks?
Yeah, but
no, 6.
I mean, like I agree that you don't want to trade your future, but at a certain point you got to be realistic about the guys you're trading. I think they had already seen the best in Gallinari, which turns out they had, and Wilson Chandler looked like a nice prospect, but there was no way he was going to become Carmelo Anthony at any point. So with Winslow right now, we still don't know, but if he still doesn't show anything this season in terms of development of his offensive game, at a certain point you got to recognize what you have with him, which is an athletic guy that's a good defender and a smart player and a good distributor. But I mean, I'm really hoping that he shows offensive game this year because that won't be the case anymore. But for right now, you don't have a guy with an offensive game there. So, but like I think at this point, like early on, they could already see that Gallinari is not a great defender. He's a guy that can score the ball, but he's not a great rebounder. So basically, what you have is a guy that's between a 3 and 4 who can put up points for you, but not at the highest rate because he's not the most athletic guy, and he's not a great defender. So I think they figured that they basically already seen his ceiling. And I mean, Anthony, as much as I'm not a huge Carmelo fan, he's definitely neither he nor Gallinari are good defenders, but Anthony is definitely better offensive talent.
Yeah, back to Boston though. I think this is not good. You traded Avery. You traded who else they traded?
I mean, they let Kelly Olynyk go.
Let him go. They traded someone. No, they let Amir Johnson go, but he really wasn't big. But I mean, it's just you traded Avery Bradley, who was your best defender, like your identity. You just said, like you said, go their identity is gone now. Avery Bradley was their defense. So I think Gordon Hayward, he had one good year, but that's just too much for a guy that had one good year last year that was playing. Right? What if he does?
I mean, I think Gordon Hayward's better than all the other guys. The problem is like Avery Bradley wasn't just your second leading scorer; he was your best, perimeter defender. I mean, Marcus Smart's good too, but Bradley gives you more on the offensive end as well. And then, I mean, Kelly Olynyk and Amir Johnson were your two. Horford, you get rid of them, and all you bring in is Aaron Baines to replace them. That's not really, a replacement. So, and then, I mean, then you're relying on a bunch of young players to develop when you could be flipping them for another guy that could take your team to the next level. And it seems like Danny Ainge is caught in limbo. Like, does he want to win now or does he want to win later? Seems like he wants to win later, but then why sign a guy like Gordon Hayward, who's in the middle of his prime right now, if you want to win later? So I just don't get it at this point. It doesn't seem like they know exactly what they want to do, and because of that, they're like a person on NBA 2K who's like trying to make a bunch of trades and build like a really nice team, but then they end up with like 4 small forwards who all have potential, but they can't seem to flip any of them to upgrade in the other positions, and they also can't seem if they want to go with veterans. They're caught in a place where they either have to make the decision to win now or make the decision to win in the future. And signing a guy like Hayward, that's a sign that you want to win now, but then you have to trade some of your prospects at that point. And if you're unwilling to do that, then you're caught in limbo.
Exactly. I think Isaiah Thomas, they're not going to keep him next year. I think they're going to let him walk because of his age and the money he's going to ask for and his defensive liability. Avery Bradley, it's going to suck because Isaiah Thomas is going to get exposed 10 times as worse without Avery Bradley covering on defense. It's going to be pretty bad. That's why I think Boston will decline next year.
I mean, everyone also says, oh, well, didn't Devin Booker drop 71 points on Avery Bradley? Avery Bradley didn't play that game. He was out.
Yeah, he didn't play that game.
He didn't play that game.
The Suns are guarding.
Yeah, Broussard, I think, was actually – Broussard said that
he made
about Avery Bradley, and then he was like – it was pointed out that he was wrong.
Yeah, he made a mistake and thought he played. I'm like, no, Avery Bradley wouldn't care to let me.
Which anything proves our point that Bradley's even more valuable than people realize.
Yeah, because I mean, one they get, but it's not gonna. Man, Avery Bradley was the Boston success last year, and I think without him, his defense and his scoring ability, sure, Gordon Hayward will replace his scoring, but I think even Avery Bradley was a better defender than Gordon Hayward. I don't know.
Yeah, Hayward's not an awful defender, but he's not, Bradley's like a lockdown defender. I mean, Bradley's as good as perimeter defenders can get for the most part.
Good as Jimmy Butler. I don't know. I think that's a bad trade, honestly. I really do. For Gordon Hayward that had one good year, I don't know. I just think that was.
The thing with me, I don't even necessarily know if it's a bad trade. I think if you can't then flip some other prospects and get a guy like Anthony Davis, then it becomes a bad trade. Because Bradley was a guy that is part of the core. So if you're going to get rid of the core to win now by get a guy like Hayward, then you either you win now or you win later. You can't do both, and it seems like they don't know what they want to do. They're stuck between a bunch of prospects and a couple guys that are in their prime or getting close to their prime or getting close to the end of their prime. So like Horford's nearly at the end of his prime, Hayward's in the middle of his prime, and then they have a bunch of guys that are really young, and it doesn't really fit all that well. So either they have to find a way to trade Horford, find a way to trade Hayward, or just trade a bunch of their prospects, pick up a guy like Anthony Davis, and actually try and compete for a championship right now. And if they can't make the decision, then they're just going to be a team that wins 50 games every year and doesn't make the finals.
Exactly. I think at least the Miami Heat, they want to win now, but they also have a young core, and they don't.
Yeah. I've never seen, in the last 7 years, I don't think LeBron's ever been more exposed than he is right now. I mean, his team around him is full of guys who are on walkers, and the team itself doesn't look like it has any chemistry. I mean, that team is like really bad outside of LeBron and Kyrie.
Honestly, I've been telling people for a long time, and I'm not hating on the guy. LeBron James is not a great leader, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think it's the exact opposite. I think he is a really good leader, but he can't do this on his own. And the Cavs just aren't, the Cavs are just, I mean, in Miami, like all they did was throw a bunch of veterans around LeBron. But because he had Wade and Bosh, it worked. Like you can just throw a bunch of guys that can shoot and a bunch of veterans around Wade, Bosh, and LeBron, and it works.
What are you telling
People don't seem to realize that Kyrie is not as good as Dwayne Wade, and Kevin Love is not as good as Chris Bosh. So right off the bat, your two other main guys are not as good as the ones you had in Miami. And then you just throw a bunch of veterans around. Well, it doesn't necessarily work in that sort of way anymore.
LeBron James tried to take the Miami Heat coach to Cleveland. It didn't work out. Trying to get James Jones, he's just retired today, and I think he's with the Suns in the front office. Trying to get a guy like Jones, Mike Miller, they're old. How about you, Chris Anderson? It wasn't gonna. Kevin Love does not play defense. It will never work because he doesn't play defense. Kyrie Irving, but at least Kyrie Irving really take over the ball. J.R. Smith was played, and that's why their hands. Same with Tristan Thompson. They don't. Matthew Dellavedova was a huge loss. It's a cluster. You know what?
I mean, they gave Tristan Thompson way too much money.
Oh yeah.
They also Dellavedova was actually kind of a valuable guy, and people didn't really realize it. But I mean, their backup point guard is now Jose Calderon.
They gave
Jose Calderon is nearly 36 years old, and he hasn't been good since 2013, 2014 when he was on the Mavericks.
It's literally like they're just stupid. Like old guys that can't play defense. Like what are you doing?
I mean,
Tristan Thompson was a horrible contract, and now they're starting to realize because they can't do anything. J.R. Smith has them locked up. No one wants Kevin Love. LeBron James is out of there next year. I don't really blame him, honestly. But then again, it's his fault. He wanted Tristan Thompson and J.R. Smith to get those contracts, and now look at it.
Yeah, I mean, those were definitely bad. LeBron definitely shot himself in the foot with those.
Yeah. I understand you're all about players getting their money, but you got to think about your flexibility. And that's the thing about the Miami Heat. Pat Riley and those guys in the front office are very smart. They don't give a guy like – I mean, it sucked when they didn't give D. Wade his money or whatever he wanted or desired, but we understand he didn't do it at that point in time because he was going to give Dwayne Wade his due anyway. At the very end of his career, he was going to give Dwayne Wade his due. But – at this point, he didn't want to do that because it would just, handcuff us.
So it's like, but in Miami, see, they asked LeBron to help recruit guys, but in the end, Pat Riley made the decisions of who to bring in. It seems like in Cleveland, not only are they having LeBron recruit guys, but LeBron now gets to decide who they bring in. And LeBron is a great player. He likes, there's certain guys that he likes to play with. He's not a general manager, and he's not a team builder. You can ask him to recruit, guys that you want on your team. Like Pat Riley can approach him and be like, hey, can you reach out to this guy? We want him on our team and we want him to choose us in free agency. That's one thing. But to then have him be the guy that makes the decisions for the GM, like you have to keep this guy. Like you have to do this. You have to get this guy. LeBron shouldn't be able to choose. LeBron shouldn't be asked to be the GM. I mean, if he wants to be a recruiter, he's a good recruiter. He can't build a team. And at a certain point, that's going to end up with a bunch of guys that he likes, but they might not necessarily be, the same type of winning team. Like I could play pickup ball, and I could pick 4 of my friends to be on my team, and I like the guys and I like playing with them. Doesn't mean that we're going to be a good team. Whereas if I pick 4 guys that maybe some of them I like, maybe some of them I get along with, but they're all good players and they all are the types of players I like to play with, we'll win more games. So LeBron should not be in the GM role that he's kind of been put into in Cleveland. He should be more in the recruiter role that he was in Miami.
I think that's part of the reason why I left Miami also. Not because we were old and broken down per se, but he didn't get all the control in Miami.
Yeah, I mean, Pat Riley at the end of the day calls the shots in Miami. In Cleveland, it looks like LeBron calls them. And LeBron's gotten coaches fired in the past. He never got Spoelstra fired. No. And whether or not that was because he liked Spoelstra or whether or not because Pat Riley didn't let him get rid of Spoelstra, point being LeBron didn't have the same sort of power in Miami that he does in Cleveland both times. I mean, he's getting coaches fired. He's getting players big contracts. In Miami, none of that stuff happened. He was like, he was kind of put in his place. It's like, you're a player. You're a great player. We want you to help us. We want you to help us win games and get people here, but you don't make the decisions. You're not in charge here. And I think that's the kind of thing that LeBron needs to be in that sort of role if he wants to win. I think a lot of times LeBron's a terrific player, makes people around him better. But if he's the one calling the shots and he's bringing the wrong people in, and you're not building your team, then you're in a bad situation.
Yeah, Homer says Cleveland sucks because LeBron left. They became a lottery team, but when he left Miami, we were, we're not like, that's culture. We obviously have culture in Cleveland. Cleveland is not. You can say 2016 all you want, but all the politics and stuff that went down that season, come on. I don't know.
I did hear that they tanked the Cavs to get this second seed. I don't know. I mean, like, obviously Miami wouldn't have been able to beat the Cavs. I mean, maybe the Cavs are worried that they'd actually lose a few games or something and have to have the playoffs drag on. I don't know. I mean, the Heat, I would, if I were any team, I'd be afraid of the team that had the best record in the second half of the season because they're coming in as the hottest team. So any team, what team would want to play that team? So it wouldn't surprise me if the Cavs did at least tank a little bit so they wouldn't have to play the hottest team. But, I mean, at the end of the day, all I care about is that the Heat didn't make the playoffs, and that sucks.
It really killed their team because it was one game.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. Wade left because he was supposedly going to a better situation where he's getting more money, and we had the same record that he did. I mean, we just basically, we lost a few more games, but we transitioned very smoothly.
Now go ahead and look over us. That's why they did Nelson said us. Yeah. Brooklyn really had our destiny in our hand, and they just decided to sit players, even though they're.
Yeah, why did Brooklyn do that? It's not like they win anyways. I mean, they suck. Like, they're starting reserves that could barely make a D-League team.
And they set all players down when they're a D-League. Like, that really pissed me off when they set their players down last year, and we end up not making the playoffs. I was like, really? I mean, they probably would have beat Chicago anyway, but it's like, at least play your players, man. I mean, I don't know. They really pissed me off.
It's definitely a head scratcher considering it's not like who are you resting these guys for exactly? Half of their starters are already prospects as it is. I mean, I don't know. That roster looked like my local JCC roster almost. It was so bad.
Yeah, Dark Knight 1-1-9-3. I can't. Yeah, you can't wait for the season. You're sick of all the disrespect. Yeah, we're never going to become a third seed.
People are saying that the Heat are losers in free agency. I don't get that. I mean,
losers.
I don't necessarily think we didn't have a Timberwolves type offseason. We didn't have an offseason like that. We didn't have a really, really good signing. In my opinion, the best signing was Millsap to the Nuggets. We didn't have a signing like that. But, I mean, got a couple guys that are upgrades. Brought back the main players. Going into this season with more chemistry than we went into last season. I don't see how we're losers. Our roster has gotten better, and a lot of those core guys now have a year together under their belts. I don't see how that's a loss, in my opinion.
Exactly. I don't see how that's a loss.
It's just it's a bunch of the same guys that are used to playing with each other and like playing with each other with a few upgrades. I don't get how that's losing the offseason. It's like, oh, well, they didn't get Gordon Hayward, so they lost. Did we? I don't know. I mean, I'd like to see. Let's see how Gordon Hayward fits in with Boston there first. This Nets roster is disgusting.
I think it was before the Gordon Hayward decision. I was like, if we don't get Gordon Hayward and we also lose the Waiters, then that's a thing. But if we don't get what, that's okay. And if we can keep our guy, another piece, that's not a failure. We're not the type of Lakers where even the Lakers where they can get an all-star every team. No one in the NBA can do that right now besides.
I think I never wanted to see the great white hype Hayward. Lol. I think it was all I could do to keep in my video about Kelly Olynyk from yelling, "Stop judging him because he's white. He's actually really athletic." Everyone thinks that the guy from Canada, who's this goofy looking 7 foot white guy, isn't really much of an athlete, and the guy's ridiculous. I mean, people don't realize how fast he is, and how his leaping ability is. People just kind of write him off. I think he could. I mean, 36. Well, Olynyk actually had a really good number. I think his numbers were better than Amir Johnson's. Amir Johnson is people consider him to be a rim protector.
Oh, Amir just garbage, but he can rebound. That's all. But
Olynyk was a better rebounder than Amir Johnson last year. Olynyk was better in almost every category.
Yeah, that white player stuff. I get. We have Gordon Dragic, and he's a white player. So what are you going to say about that?
Yeah, but I mean, like Hayward and Olynyk are sort of different in that sort of way because they're both like pretty athletic guys.
The most overrated white player I think in the NBA is probably Kevin Love because he doesn't play any defense, and he's just a liability.
Who is it?
Kevin Love. He's a liability.
I love Kevin Love, but
no pun.
I mean, he's the problem with him. It's not just that he doesn't play defense; he doesn't have that sort of toughness.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever heard his stories about how he freaks out if a teammate doesn't give him a high five on a free throw? Do you ever read anything about that?
No,
that's really weird. You know how teammates always give each other high fives and stuff on free throws? A lot of it is just because the team is saying, like, you're a part of this team and, we believe in you. And if Kevin Love doesn't get a high five, he flips out because he gets really insecure. That's definitely – I'm not sure – and I can see why he would automatically sort of become an outsider immediately on a team that has a leader like LeBron is because Kevin Love's kind of like that guy that's really – kind of insecure, and it kind of sucks. He doesn't have a ton of athleticism. The reason he's such a good rebounder is because he's a decently smart player. He's pretty smart, but he's also got a lot of bulk. So he's the kind of guy like Zach Randolph who doesn't have a ton of athleticism, but is just stronger and bigger, so they can get good positioning in box outs and basically just out-muscle somebody for a rebound. That's basically why guys like that can do it. Same thing with same thing with like a guy like David Lee, who's like sort of a hustle guy. Like those guys are just they're more hustle. They get themselves in good positioning, and they're able to get rebounds. But you never see guys like Zach Randolph or Kevin Love or David Lee known for their defense because they don't have that pure athleticism or grit to sort of like go after people on defense. But I like those kinds of guys. It's just more and more of those kinds of guys are being phased out of the league. And you just don't see a lot of guys like that are the focal points of the team's offense anymore. So like that's I always loved Al Jefferson. He was always one of my favorite guys. He wasn't the most athletic guy, but he was so skilled and he was so much fun to watch in the paint that it was so much fun to watch him because the way he used his footwork, the way he used post moves. In my opinion, he was the last good post offensive player in the league. There isn't anybody like him in the league anymore. Brooke Lopez sorta, but not even really like Al Jefferson. But guys like that who are just big and clunky just aren't in the league anymore. And Kevin Love, even stretch fours who are now big and clunky, are starting to be phased out of the league.
You could say Joel Okafor, but that's all I can really give you.
Joel Okafor is a guy that might have been good 10 years ago coming into the league, but the type of way he plays had already been phased out the moment he had entered the league.
No, I'm saying another guy like Al Jefferson. I can say Julian Okafor.
Al Jefferson was a decent defender, though. Like, Al Jefferson was a good defender.
Yeah, he was.
He was actually a pretty decent... I mean, he wasn't... He could only defend guys like him, but, I mean, at least he could defend some people. He wasn't, like, the worst defender ever. I mean, Okafor doesn't seem like the worst defender either, but he's definitely not great.
All right. Who do you got in next year's MVP?
Let's see. I mean...
I'll say KD.
KD could be. I'm trying to think. It depends on. So I could honestly see it going to somebody who's never won it before. So I mean, one of the things that people overlook, and I'm really big on this guy is Giannis. I'm really big on him. I see a lot of things in him that make me think like it's hard to compare him to somebody, but if I had to compare him to somebody, I would say sort of like a Grant Hill back when Grant Hill was on the Pistons a little bit. Grant Hill wasn't necessarily a great shooter. But Grant Hill was a guy who was just way more athletic, way more athletic, a gritty scorer who could rebound really well and pass really well, and could just do all the little things that help your team win. He was a great defender, and he may not have been like a knockdown shooter, but he did everything else so well. And I see a lot of the Grant Hill type of thing, except that Giannis is built way more deadly than Grant Hill ever was. So I look at Giannis, and if he takes yet another step forward and he gets the Bucks into like a higher seed, or even has them maybe second in their division or like top 5 in the conference, I could see Giannis getting serious talk for MVP. I mean, I'm really big on that guy, and that's because I see a lot of the things that he does that maybe not a lot of other people sort of notice. And people look at Russell Westbrook. They say, "Oh, he scored 30 points per game, had a triple double." Giannis's field goal percentage is 52.1 playing the wing. I mean, he doesn't even take 16 shots a game, and he averages 23 points. Yeah. He's an extremely efficient player. He averaged over a steal and a half and nearly 2 blocks per game. He averaged nearly 9 rebounds, 5.5 assists, and just 2.9 turnovers.
That's the thing, though. Everyone wants to look at Russell Westbrook's stats. Do you understand he plays no defense to go get some rebounds, and he forces his assists, and he's a terrible shooter. He's a shot taker. He's talented, but his mindset of how to play the game is terrible. He has terrible IQ, terrible decision making. He plays for his stats. I hate that type of player. I do.
He just likes to. He's that kind of guy that'll go out and just have the ball the entire game and take like 40 shots a game or 30. I mean, just take a ton of shots, and then if they do win, oh, I played a great game, But he doesn't really say that, but like if the team wins, oh, Russell Westbrook is so amazing, and if this is other people, if the team wins, he's so amazing. If the team loses, oh, Russell Westbrook has no help. That's the kind of stuff. It's never really his fault. He's never really held accountable. And then there are certain games where he's really, really led the team to victory. But there are other games where he's taken way too many shots, shot them out of the game, doesn't get the criticism that he needs. And he needs that criticism. People need to realize that this guy can be a guy that can take over the game, but he's also the type of guy who could shoot you right out of it. So if we don't address the fact that the way he plays is both a blessing and a curse,
people want to call KD a snake and whatever, fine. But KD left for a reason. That's the reason why he left, guys.
I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with the reasons KD left, but the way he's acted after he's left is really obnoxious. He's really been nasty to Thunder fans, and it sucks.
He does have a diva attitude. That's for all these players nowadays. They all have diva.
But he's unnecessarily. He responds to like 12-year-olds on Twitter who tell him he's annoying. Just don't do that. Don't respond to like little kids on Twitter if you're an NBA player. It's just, if you look at his Twitter, I have these messages to the haters. Yeah, these 12-year-old kids on it's just, that's the kind of stuff that you don't want to sink yourself down to, and you're just unable to do it at this point.
You're a grown man. Come on now.
Yeah, like you're an NBA star, and you're like, oh, I bet you could. Why don't you try to come in and win a championship? It's like that's what you're paid to do. I hate that argument. If you think it's so easy, why can't you do it? Well, because I'm not paid $25 million a year to do it, because I'm not. So I think he needs to just enjoy the winning, stop rubbing it into Thunder fans, and stop engaging with 12-year-olds on Twitter, and you'll be fine. Like I said, I don't disagree with the reasons why he left. There's nothing wrong with leaving a situation to a better one if you want to win a championship. I mean, I don't think Russell Westbrook would be first on my list of teammates I'd want to have either. So, but then to just what he's done since then and how obnoxious he's been, I can understand why people don't like him at this point.
Oh, so they're really serious. Derrick Rose is in serious talks about signing a serious 1-year deal with Cleveland. I mean, that's cool, but
I don't. Why?
Why would you go to the Bucks or the Spurs? Like,
the Spurs, in my opinion, are the best, and the only reason that they're the best is not only will Pop probably get some good play out of him, because Rose is actually sort of a similar player, not as I don't know. I mean, he and Tony Parker are sort of similar players, right? Like they both are great at getting the ball to the basket, finishing at the rim. They're both pretty good at that stuff. But I think the thing that Pop could do for Rose that not a lot of other coaches could do is manage his minutes correctly. Like Tibbs obviously just ran him to the ground, but I think maybe Pop could at least keep him healthy for a season. I don't know. I guess we would see. But, I mean, he can still be a productive player. He didn't have an awful season in New York. I mean, he was playing better than he had in a while, but he just couldn't stay healthy.
It's like, I honestly want to be a backup for Kyrie. I don't know. Whatever. But,
I mean, you could put Kyrie at the 2, maybe. How tall is Kyrie?
6'3".
That's tall enough to play the 2, especially since Kyrie's not, doesn't need to be a distributor.
Kyrie can't.
Like LeBron's a distributor there.
Kyrie can't play defense, so that would be terrible to put him at the 2.
Yeah, I mean, Derrick Rose has never been known for defense either.
And that's the thing. The thing about Cleveland, sign all guys for offensive start. Problem is, literally, They can play defense on their team is Amon Shumpert and LeBron James.
J.R. Smith is. You can't get much worse on defense than J.R. though. I mean, did you ever watch Coach Nick talk about how bad J.R. was in the finals?
Yeah.
I mean, J.R. was just he couldn't defend the transition. I mean, when you got J.R. having his worst shooting season, combined with the fact that he's a complete liability on defense, you got to get him out of there. I'd rather have Kyrie defending people than J.R. Smith. Oh my goodness, they're paying him a ton of money. Jeez. JR's locked down for another 3 years. I didn't even know he had that kind of contract. That's awful. Jeez. If LeBron sticks Cleveland with that contract and then leaves, that's an awful thing to do. Like LeBron was the one you said who pushed for this J.R. Smith deal to come back. If he just like leaves after this season and leaves them with 2 more years of this awful contract, there's no excuse for that.
Yeah, that's the real thing.
He's getting paid like nearly $15 million a year to play awful defense and be an inconsistent shooter, and be a headache probably in the locker room too.
Whoever Tristan Thompson's and J.R. Smith's agent is, I want them.
Yeah, I mean, all you have to do is probably like buy LeBron gifts and stuff, and he'll get you way more money than you should get.
Hey, LeBron, you want me to clean your shoes? Yeah, you can get $50 million a year also.
Yeah, like. How about you just get, if I miss, how about you just get a few offensive rebounds and dunkbacks, and that's worth about $16 million a year. You don't even have to play much defense or even do defensive rebounding.
And I would literally retire a year after and invest my money on other stuff because that's a shitload of money.
Yeah, I mean, look, like Tristan Thompson has always been basically just an offensive rebounder and like nothing else. If you look at his rookie year stats, he nearly averaged as many offensive rebounds as defensive rebounds. Like, throughout his career, he's averaged 3.4 offensive rebounds per game, which is really nice, but just 5.2 defensive. That's, like, not in anything. That's really not a lot. He can't pass the ball. He doesn't have much of an offensive game. He's regressed as a free throw shooter. He's not much of a shot blocker. I mean, he gets just over a game, and this was the first season since his rookie year where he had one or more per game. I mean, he's not any of these things. He's basically just an offensive rebounding guy and somebody who's can be a high-effort guy, but I mean, when you can't make free throws or, have any sort of offensive game, what is your effort worth anyways? So, honestly, I mean, it looks like people are going to hate me for this too, but he looks like the poor man's Joel Anthony. Like, and I mean, more like the rich man's Joel Anthony.
LOL, I was going to actually say that.
Yeah, he's like the rich man's Joel Anthony. Like, Joel Anthony was like, he could block a few shots here and there, get you a few offensive rebounds, absolutely no offensive game. Not a great rebounder in general, though, and just fouled a bunch. Like, he's obviously better than Joel Anthony, but, I mean, Joel Anthony actually was sort of valuable in the Heat. Is Tristan Thompson any more valuable than Joel Anthony was for the amount of money that he's being paid?
Hey, the reason though why I like Joel Anthony is because he gave you everything when he was on the court. Even though he didn't have any skills, he gave you everything. So
he was just funny to watch. He was so awkward looking when he played.
At least Tristan Thompson doesn't give you everything every night. Joel Anthony will. Maybe because Tristan Thompson's getting a lot of money, but I don't know. Yeah, Joel Anthony was very awkward athlete, and like he tried to contest every shot, but
I mean, if anyone wants to do the math, I'd like to see how many like dollars it's costing the Cavs per offensive rebound that Tristan Thompson's getting.
Exactly.
That's basically they're paying him to get offensive rebounds. I want to see just how much his offensive rebounds are worth to them. Because they're certainly not paying him to score or get regular rebounds or play interior defense or make free throws. So.
Guys, give more questions. You want to talk? What's the greatest Heat team in your opinion?
In my opinion, their teams in the late '90s were really good. Like some of their teams in the late '90s were really nice. If we're talking teams that I think were the best of all time, I mean, I think there were 2 separate teams I think are above and beyond the other ones that we've had. 05-06 was really far up there. That was Dwayne Wade right when he was starting to become a real superstar. And then the supporting cast around Wade was really nice that year. Obviously, you had Shaq as the number 2 guy. But the players that they got around Wade
had UD.
I mean, they had UD. They had Jason Williams playing the point. They had Antoine Walker. They had a Morning coming in as Shaq's backup. Gary Payton backup point guard. James Posey, who in James Posey's prime was basically like Shane Battier. Like similar type of players. And then Derek Anderson, nice shooter. Jason Capono, nice shooter. I mean, there's a lot of guys here that could come in and at least do something for you.
You're right on there.
Darrell Wright?
Remember him?
Well, Darrell Wright, yeah, I mean, yeah, he wasn't getting a ton of playing time yet.
No, I'm saying he was.
But yeah, he was on the championship team. But and then obviously I think out of the LeBron teams, the 2012-2013 team was the best one. Just because it finally completed the bench and basically filled out all the weaknesses that the Heat had over the years. So the Heat obviously always had a weakness at big man. They filled that with getting Birdman in there. I mean, Chalmers finally sort of solidified the point guard position because all he was doing and all he needed to do was really just catch and shoot and play good defense. Ray Allen was the best sixth man that the Heat had during the LeBron era. Shane Battier was at his peak in terms of shooting. He had his best shooting year on the Heat that year. Norris Cole had a little, a bit of a standout season as well. Birdman obviously came in and was a really nice big man off the bench. Mike Miller actually sort of got extensive playing time and hit a bunch of really nice shots. Haslam was just about to decline, but he was still sort of productive at the time. Yeah. And then you had just an assortment of guys that you could put around them and give them some minutes.
UD's best, like his last rate was probably 2011 Miami Heat. After that foot injury, he just went downhill.
Yeah, but he was still sort of productive. I mean, this season was the only year that the Heat actually got a substantial amount of games from Mike Miller. In his 3 years, he played 41, then 39, and then this year he played 59. He actually had his second highest shooting percentage in terms of both 3-point and regular. He also had his highest assist per game total. For the team. I mean, he actually played sort of valuable minutes in this season. And then in terms of Shane Battier always played good defense. This was the only year that he shot the ball well for the Heat. Every other year he shot the ball pretty poorly.
That first was in 2011. But it
was brutal. It was brutal. I remember seeing him miss just shot after shot. This was the only season that he actually shot decently.
This is my take. I think you can make an argument out of the 2013 team. I think the 2013 team was way more stacked, but I think the 2012 team was way better.
Sorry, I missed that. What was going on?
I think the 2013 Miami Heat team squad was way stacked. The 2012 team was better. I think they were the best.
I mean, they tried to continue to add on to their pieces, but the problem was that in the next season is that a lot of the guys who had career years the year before declined dramatically just randomly in this season. Rashard Lewis just stopped producing. Battier went back to shooting terribly. They thought they could do without Mike Miller, but they didn't really have anybody to play that sort of role. Mm-hmm. I mean, they got Michael Beasley, who was Michael Beasley's Michael Beasley. Chalmers.
They had James Jones, but they didn't really give him any time.
I mean, James Jones was always just a guy who would run off a pick, and he was Wayne Ellington's better than James Jones, but James Jones was basically just what the Heat had in that Wayne Ellington role back in the day, if even that. I mean, Chalmers was asked to do more scoring this season, which is not a good idea. Ray Allen declined a little bit. He had less points per game in more minutes than the previous year. So, I mean, the Heat, they definitely thought they had a better roster, but they had a lot of guys coming off career seasons, including LeBron, who had the best season of his career. So you can have as many talented players as you want. If you look at the Cavaliers roster from this past season, it looked like their best roster on paper out of the 3 years that they've been there. But what they didn't take into account was just chemistry issues and guys declining on stats that don't necessarily show up in the box score. So, J.R. Smith obviously wasn't having a great shooting year, but his awful defense also doesn't show up in the box score. Kyrie Irving had his best scoring season, but his not-so-great perimeter defense doesn't show up in there. Kevin Love had his best statistical year, but, it doesn't show up that he's kind of clunking up the team and, not allowing for, them to play at a faster pace. So stuff like that.
Miami Heat is the best. Miami Heat team was 06, no doubt. I can agree with you. If Shaq played just as good as Dwayne Wade that finals, I think that would be the greatest team of Miami Heat. But he didn't play as good as Dwayne Wade.
I still think it's a toss up between that one and the 2012-2013. I think if we're talking about like which team was my favorite to watch, I loved Shaq back in the day. Like Shaq was my second favorite player always after Wade. I used to watch him back on the Lakers just because I loved watching his style so much. If we had Shaq a little bit earlier in his prime with Wade, that would have been. I mean, we would have gotten way more ranks than Kobe and Shaq did because Wade wasn't the type of asshole that Kobe's been.
Yeah. If Dwayne Wade and Shaq were both in their prime together, my God.
I actually went and saw a playoff game the year they won the finals in 2006. I saw the Game 6 against the Pistons. It was my middle school graduation gift where my parents took me down to Miami to see them play in the playoffs. And my dad walked past Rasheed Wallace. My dad's 5'10". Rasheed Wallace is 6'11". It was insane. And then my mom went up to Shaq's mom and was like, "You have a great son." Because our family is a Shaq family. We all love Shaq. So... But, I mean, Wade was sick that game with the flu, and he only scored 14 points. But when they had that kind of roster around them, that's all they really needed him to do because they had so many good players who could put the ball in the basket that season. I mean, Antoine Walker was always one of the most overrated players in the entire NBA. But when his only job on this team, his job is no longer to be the main scorer on the team. His job is just, we give you the ball, you can put it in the basket whenever you can. That's the kind of role that Walker was born to play, not the lead star role. Because when he was in the lead star role, he was really inefficient. So, this was his best season.
Yeah. Talking about when he played with Boston?
Yeah, I mean, there were seasons where I think wasn't there a season? I'm looking at these stats; they're garbage. There was a season where he scored. He was taking almost 21 shots per game, and he scored only 22.1 points per game. I mean, he was just his career shooting percentage at the power forward position was 41.4%. I mean. Criticize Russell Westbrook all you want. Antoine Walker was way more overrated in the sense of scoring. Everyone thought Antoine Walker was a great scorer. His shooting percentages are really awful.
Let's be honest. Antoine Walker's not Russell Westbrook, though.
But, I mean, back in the day, everyone thought Antoine Walker was like a top 5 power forward, right? But, I mean, his best year, in my opinion, even though it wasn't his highest number year, I'm looking. The year with the Heat was his best full field goal percentage season. Like that, in terms of field goal percentage, he had his best full year when the year the Heat won the championship because he was no longer asked to just do everything. He was like, basically his job was put the ball in the basket. That's it. He came off the bench mostly and just put the ball in the basket. And that was where he was at his best.
Miami culture for you though. We make everyone better.
Yeah, I mean, well, people like Wade make everyone better. Jason Williams also had a pretty solid season. Jason Williams was never – I mean, his career field goal percentage isn't even 40%. But he had one of his best shooting years. Actually, it was his second best shooting year on the Heat. And it was actually his best if you want to take into account playing an actual substantial amount of minutes. So he had like his best shooting year too. I mean, he was never a great scorer, but you put these guys on the Heat around guys that can make them better. And it raises their numbers dramatically.
Yeah, I know, right? I think it's all about the style.
But yeah, I mean, people also forget that guys like James Posey were on the team. Posey was in his prime was basically Shane Battier, but more athletic. I mean, Posey was sort of a similar player to Bruce Bowen, I would say, just a guy who could basically guard any wing player and just lock him down. Yeah, that was Posey's biggest strength.
And he can get rebounds too.
He was okay. He was a pretty decent rebounder. He wasn't great, but I mean, he did what he needed to do. He can shoot the three. He could fly in for a dunk every now and then, and he could lock down somebody.
This is an interesting question I just thought of. We'll do a few more then probably call it a day. But out of all the three teams from 2010 all the way to last year, name from the best role players. You can go first.
From the super teams, the best role players. Battier and Ray Allen from the Heat. We're talking super teams. What do you mean, the Warriors? I mean, Andre Iguodala is the best guy on that team in terms of role players I can think of.
No. Each year, who's the role player off the bench for the 2011 team And then
For all 4 of the Heat seasons?
yeah.
Okay. In 2010, the best role player. Was there even a good one? I mean, the Heat had nobody that year. I can't even remember anyone who was even. I guess James Jones probably. That was James Jones' best year in the LeBron era. I would say James Jones is probably the number 1 guy. He played in the majority of games and actually shot really well.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was. I think I'd probably put him, at the head of that one. 2011, definitely Battier. Yep. 2012. I mean, Ray Allen was nice, but people forget how nice Chalmers was too that year. Chalmers was the perfect point guard for that system. So I don't know. I mean, it's definitely a toss-up. Ray Allen definitely took the bench to the next level, but Chalmers was the absolute perfect point guard to put in that role. So I would say it's a toss-up between those 2 guys. I mean, Battier was also really nice that year too because he shot the ball well. And then the next season, 2013, 2014, I'd still have to go with Ray Allen or Chalmers at that point.
Okay.
I mean, the Heat had a lot of good role players over the course of a couple of years. But I'd say Ray Allen was nice in that he basically brought scoring off the bench that none of the other teams had. At least the first 2 years didn't have.
Okay, this is this is pretty first year. James Jones and Joel Anthony for the first year. The second,
that first year is disgusting. Like nobody even did anything outside of the big 3.
Oh, exactly.
That year I hated that.
I mean, James Jones tried, but he's James Jones. What more do you expect from him? He did have a good series against Boston when he scored 25 points. I think he went 7 for 7 for 3. Look it up. And then he won a 3-point contest that year. He was pretty good. He was solid.
Who, James Jones? I mean, he actually added shooting to a team that didn't have a lot of it.
Yeah. Eddie House was a flop. Mike Bibby was a bigger flop.
Mike Bibby was just old as dirt at that point.
The thing about it, though, Mike Bibby was having a good year, but as soon as he came to I don't know, he didn't help out.
He wasn't even traded to the Heat. The Hawks just released him because he was so bad.
Hawks released him because the Wizards. I think he was traded to the Wizards, and then they would release him, and then we picked him up. But
he had already started to show signs of declining before the Hawks even got rid of him.
Eddie House, we wanted the Eddie House from Boston, but we didn't get him. Mike Bibby, we wanted the 40% 3-point shooter from Atlanta. I think it was 44 today. That was his best shooting year, but we didn't get him when he came to the Heat. Eric Dampier, I mean, what more can he do at that age? He had a knee injury, I think, that year. Jamal McGraw was injured all year. Dexter Pittman was a rookie. He was raw.
He was also Dexter Pittman. Like, Dexter Pittman was Dexter Pittman.
Yeah.
Not only was he a rookie, but he was himself, and that was a load enough to not make him worth a spot.
Mario Chalmers was okay, but he was still raw. So those are role players. So I say James Jones and Joel Anthony had the best years that year off the bench.
I think the problem with Chalmers that year was that he hadn't developed the catch and shoot ability yet, because he had been the main ball handler, or at least like that was sort of his role a couple of years previously. He wasn't as much of a shooter as he became later on. So once he was able to get that catch and shoot ability, that's when he started getting more minutes again with the big 3.
Yeah.
But he had to change his game up to be that sort of point guard for them.
Yeah, Joel Anthony had a game that year. We had like 16. It was one of those regular season games. He had like 16 rebounds and 3 blocks. He was solid in the playoffs, but he played hard. He played more than his potential, but he was Joel Anthony at the end of the day. At the second year, Shane Battier definitely, and I could add Mario Chalmers in there also. Shane Battier was definitely the bigger help. He was what we needed. If we wouldn't look, I tell you this right now. If we got Shane Battier in that 2011 season, we would have beat Dallas. But LeBron James, he probably still wouldn't have had that LeBron James meltdown, but I think we wouldn't fare well against Dallas because we would have an outside shooter.
Also, Norris Cole was a nice addition that 2011, 2012 too.
It was yeah. So Shane Battier and Mario Chalmers the second year. The third year is Chris Anderson and Mario Chalmers. The fourth year is probably Ray Allen and Rashard Lewis, I guess.
Rashard Lewis he was okay. I mean, when Chalmers finally embraced that role of just catch and shoot and play defense, he really thrived in that, but he had to learn how to do that. But That third year was definitely the best in terms of the guys, playing, doing the role playing type stuff. So I definitely thought that was the best season.
The biggest disappointment in the three players that did not work out for us was you gotta say Mike Miller. Look, he had that good game against Thunder in the closeout game when he scored 7 threes, but we expected so much more from Mike Miller. We expected Mike Miller to be a 6-man off the bench, honestly.
I mean, Mike Miller was always a great player. He just couldn't stay healthy. That was the problem.
Healthy, that's the point. Like, he could not stay healthy with Mike. He had a hernia injury. He had a thumb injury. He had a back injury. Like, he kept getting injured. I'm like, oh, my God.
And Haslam was also, I thought, a really big disappointment, too. Not because, I love Haslam, but he couldn't stay healthy in the way that we needed him to as well. I mean, his problem was always he was always dealing with something.
Once he got that broken foot injury that year, I was like, he just went downhill. He never returned back to the, Haslam that we knew. So he just declined after that foot injury.
There are people that say that Tristan Thompson is like a better version of Haslam. That's stupid. Haslam is a way better defender. Haslam is just I'd take Haslam in terms of his offensive game. If nothing else, I mean, Haslam was a better free throw shooter, and he actually could sort of knock down that mid-range shot, and he was pretty gritty when it came to, busting around inside. Haslam was also just a better overall rebounder. So whether or not Tristan Thompson's, has better shot blocking stats, or whether or not he has like slightly more rebounds per game, I mean, Haslam is. I'd still take Haslam any day over Tristan Thompson.
I can one up you on that. Haslam was a better defender. He was a better leader. He tried every game. He didn't take games off like Tristan Thompson. He played way better defense. His mid-range shot was better. I give Tristan Thompson the putbacks. He was way more athletic.
Tristan Thompson's just a really good offensive rebounder.
Yeah. Haslam was so much better than Tristan Thompson. People just don't understand.
People don't also realize that one of the things Haslam did that doesn't show up on the stat sheet, Haslam took a ton of charges. I mean, Haslam was the absolute champ of taking charges.
Out of him and Shane Battier, yeah.
Him and Shane Battier were like the league leaders in it for years. I mean, they just took so many charges, and that doesn't show up as a steal, but it's basically a steal because you're basically just forcing a turnover. So whether or not that shows up on the steal stats, you're still, forcing a turnover by yourself. I mean, I consider taking a charge to be like the equivalent of like a steal, or and you're also drawing a foul. So the fact that they were able to do that, effectively, that's a really good way to disrupt the other team's offensive flow and get the ball back for yourself. Yeah. So I mean, they were both really good at that, and that is something that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. But if you're watching the games, it shows up right there.
Yeah, those are my top. You got any more questions?
No, I was going to go take a nap because I'm kind of sick, so I'm going to lay down for a little bit.
Yeah, I did.
This is actually a good stream, though. I think it was a pretty good first stream.
Yeah, this is pretty good for the first stream. Guys, we're about to close out the video. Make sure you subscribe to Ryan's video, Ryan Winter. I have this link under at this.
It's still linked to my Kelly Olynyk video, which now has like a ton of views.
Yes.
Got that many.
Go to his channel. I know it's not a lot of people watching now, but I mean, whenever this video gets posted out, it'll get a lot of views. Yeah.
I'm also going to be doing my next video is going to be about how would Wade fit back into the Heat. I was going to do one about Rondo to the Pelicans, but then I realized I couldn't prove it either way, and there was really not a lot I could do on that one. So I'm going to do Wade instead.
Okay. So yeah, he's going to do a new video. So you guys subscribe to him. Anything else you got to say?
Definitely subscribe to Terrence here. He makes really good Heat stuff daily. Well, actually, a lot of times more than one per day. Really good commentaries, and his opinions. You'll like them and learn a lot from him.
Yeah, subscribe to me. Definitely like, comment, share. You know what to do. 3 Lifer. Oh my God, I'm tired. He like 305 out. I did cardio this morning, so I'm very tired. Yeah, he like for 305 out.
See you guys later.
Out. Goodbye.